Good afternoon to you all. Thank you for inviting me to this TEDx program in which I am going today to talk about something that everyone seems to be involved in, the selfie. Let's start with this first slide, which has become very viral. Turned viral 3 days ago, Barack Obama took a selfie of himself during, of all times, the memorial service of Nelson Mandela. Look at Michelle Obama. She doesn't look too pleased. The word selfie, we are told by CNN, is now officially a word of the English language. And of course, the greatest arbiter for that is the OED, or the Oxford English Dictionary. And selfie has been defined as CNN says, it's a photograph that one is taken of oneself, typically one taken with a smartphone or a webcam or uploaded to a social media website. Now, the word selfie suggests that the generation that posts pictures of itself, what they eat, what they do, who their friends are, and of course, that obligatory wacky shot and that equally cliche jump shot, okay? But this generation is just too self-obsessed, too narcissistic. We might ask ourselves, is that judgment correct? Is that judgment right? Or maybe this is one of those labels that come out in the course of the history of media, labels like baby boomers, flower child, flower people, Marcos babies, Marcelo babies, me generation, Generation X, Generation Y, that we haven't really subjected to much critical thinking. These ideas become, what's to say, viral. Okay? They make great sound bites. They sound really, really good on television. They even sound good on your term papers. But the virus means that you're in a state of emergency. When you are now affected by a virus, and I am actually at the moment, I'm trying to suppress a cough at the moment. I've been fighting a virus for the past 2 weeks already. Okay? So your state of emergency, you're attacked by a virus like this. This isn't really the time to sit back, relax, and do what Jetro says, magmuni-muni. It's a time to get well. But maybe today, let's just subject that idea of the selfie generation as selfish. Let's just subject it to a little bit of critical thinking. Okay? So, symptoms of selfie-ness. Well, there's some examples I can think of. I had a student in the fine arts whom I saw taking a picture of his shoe, then a picture of his knee, a picture of his ear, his biceps. I said, "What the heck are you doing?" I said, "I'm taking pictures of myself." I said, "What for?" "For my Facebook." Isn't that so narcissistic? Oh my God. We are developing pathological people here. Here's a friend of mine, an artist. We went to Australia together the first time. I was so excited to go to Australia. And here I was enjoying this beautiful view of the Sydney Bridge. And here he was, taking a picture of himself. This is the parking lot near where we could see the Sydney Bridge. He was taking a picture of his foot. And throughout our trip of about 10 days, he would take a picture of his foot. You know, we were in the Museum of Fine Arts of Australia. He took a picture of his foot. We were at Beyond the Beach. He took a picture of his foot. I said, "What the heck are you doing?" Again, for my Facebook account. And I said, "Where did you get this stupid idea?" It's not original. I saw somebody doing it. I'd like to do it also. And then, of course, he launches the big philosophical thing about, documenting your journey to life. Now, I'm an art historian, and I'm also an artist, so I know what the artistic process is like from within. But as an art historian, one of my big interests has always been the patterns. Can we see the evidences in art that tell us whether, in fact, this selfie phenomenon is something new or something old? We don't see ourselves directly. And that's why we need the arts. What we see is the human body, and we suppose that what the human body does is a manifestation of the self. Napaka-philosophical, no? Napaka-Atenista. Okay? And art has shown one very enduring phenomenon. Human beings are so obsessed with their bodies. Whether your body looks like that. Okay? This is one of the oldest depictions of the human body. They are known in art history as Venuses. Although they don't look like the Venus that you know about. This is called the Venus of Willendorf, found in Germany. And people don't know what it really is. Is it a cult figure? Is it Mother Earth? Is it a fertility symbol? But certainly, it does look like a rather voluptuous woman. Voluptuous is the nice artsy polite term for F-A-T. Okay? And visibly pregnant. But there's so many of this all over history and culture. Then cave paintings, look at that. There's a small human figure there hunting. And sometimes in cave paintings, people just leave handprints as if they were graffiti artists saying, I'm here, don't mess with me. Now the Greeks. Oh, these are the people really obsessed with the human body. It is said that the Greeks raised the human body to the height of mathematical and aesthetic perfection. And they thought the gods looked like that. So basically, they thought the gods looked like themselves, and they made themselves look like their gods. Now you say, what about Christians? Well, you know, Christians, they're so spiritual, they think only of heaven. This is the time when artists were not narcissistic at all. They obliterated the landscape, made it gold because gold is a symbol of God. But yet, when the Christians tried to depict their Christ, he puts on the robes precisely of the Byzantine Empire. The blue and the gold, these were the most expensive cloths that you could find in your day and age. So they were projecting the Byzantine self. And then we come to this, in a sense, the revival really of the self, the Renaissance. Here is a portrait picture. And in this portrait, you see to the right, the person kneeling down is Canon van der Pel. This is the work of the famous Jan van Eyck. These are called portrait paintings, where now suddenly the person paying for the painting is now part of the religious work. Okay? Talk of super high egos, talk of a super regard for the self. And of course, during this era of the Renaissance, this is when we see a lot of the artists making self-portraits, like Michelangelo, like Da Vinci. In fact, it's even suggested that the Mona Lisa is still a picture of Leonardo. And of course, you have Albrecht Dürer, and you have a guy like Rembrandt. They kept on painting themselves. That's the selfie in the age before your digital camera. What about the Philippines? Do we have the same phenomenon? Here, you see for yourself is the Angono petroglyphs, which most historians say is probably the very first manifestation of art in our country. And it's quite visible in there, the figure of the human being. Move a little further. Here is the Manunggul jar, dated to around I think the 5th century BC. It shows two human beings on the way to the afterlife. Again, the self is in the center. And then here is the anthropomorphic jars from the Maitum area in South Cotabato. What's interesting about these slides and these jars, if you look at them, okay, they were found in a cave like this. Each one of the jars depicted very unique persons, or at least unique faces. Stylized, they don't like the things that you take with your digital camera, but rather simplified. So, here's the one example of a Maitum jar at close range. So, we ask ourselves, so what? So, we have been kind of very selfie all the years, all of these years. That's what history tells us. So, what? In the colonial era, it continues, no? Even the Virgin Mary becomes Oriental. In the 19th century, those who could afford had portraits of themselves painted. This is as selfie as you can get in the age before digital cameras and computers. It's another form of projecting oneself called letras y figuras, where your name now becomes a substitute for your face, and you show the world how great you are. The projection of self continues. Here is Wawi Naverosa, one of the Ateneo art awardees, and Letters Unsent. She now is Penelope from the whole story of Odysseus. She is the subject and she's also the artist. Here's Lyle Buencamino discussing with his father the questions of tomato and potato. And Maria Cruz, who talks about her family genealogy, using pictures of her own mother as a child and her mother's identical twin, and also the clothes of his mom and her aunt wore. So the human person is a perennial subject of the arts. It's been there from the very beginning. The question, therefore, is, so what's new? What's really new about this phenomenon of being selfie? Well, first of all, we have to remember that we always define ourselves in relation to other people. What is bothering, I think, the present generation, especially the people that we can call the gatekeepers, the church, the government, your school, the moral guardians, and yes, your ever-present parent. What's really bothering them is that we seem to be defining ourselves in a different way, this generation. And this real definition is happening because of technology. Then, we defined ourselves with the extended Asian family. Today, you're looking for your identity through other things that you see in the internet. So global realities, like my friend who got this idea of taking a picture of his shoe and his foot because he saw it somewhere else in the net. Before, we had to face people face to face. Today, you complement that using your ever-present cell phones, ever-present iPads, and so on and so forth. Then, the way to talk to people is through conversation. I have to talk to you. Now, and once the conversation ends, and I'm far away from you, our connection ends. But today, the connection continues again and again and again. You're only just a ring of your cell phone away, an email message away. So we're so connected today. So in the past, people kind of shared their rituals. That's how they kept together. Family reunions, Christmas events. Today, we share likes. Whether you do things together doesn't matter, as long as you share your likes. You share your common interests. So, face-to-face is now mediated. Our social life has now been enhanced by the possibility of virtual connections. And finally, what is a limited audience in our life can now potentially become an audience which is really the whole world. So that's, I think, is the big thing that's happening to this generation. It's not so much that we have suddenly become so obsessed with ourselves. It's just we have become aware that we are really obsessed. Human beings are always obsessed. The self has always been there as the center of art, at the center of our human communication. When Leroy New was asked by the Singapore Art Museum to do an art installation, he's a Filipino artist who graduated from the Makiling School of Art in UP. He did this work called Teratoma, which looks as if the Art Museum of Singapore is getting a cancer, and aliens from outer space descend to watch this phenomenon. That what looks like a spaceship is not a spaceship. That's actually the session hall of the Singapore Parliament, which integrates into his work. Some people have said this work is not Filipino at all. It is not nationalistic. This is not Filipino. There is no allusion to the Philippines. Well, that's exactly what's happening today. Artists like Leroy New are getting their inspiration from the rest of the world, from sci-fi, from manga, from anime. And I'm sure that in this audience, many of us are forming our self-identity, not only because of what your parents say, or what your family tells you, but what you encounter by your constant exchanges of texting and so on and so forth. That's where your identity is being forged. In a situation like this, I've been asked, so what is the redeeming grace? Is this phenomenon of the selfie positive or is it negative? I think the redeeming grace is this. Here's a picture, here's a painting of Emperor Napoleon I, done by Auguste Dominique Ingres, who was one of the court painters at that time. During the time of Napoleon, basically it was only the rich and the powerful that could project themselves to the world. Because such a painting is so expensive. Today, you don't have to be rich and powerful. All you need is your cheap cell phone, which is capable of photographs, and just upload it, and you can become a new Napoleon. Now, where's this all going to end? I really don't know. And I'm just very excited to see what the future is like. When more and more people can project themselves into the world, no longer becoming anonymous, but people begin to know you. So we are really, I think today, in a situation of reinvention. We are now in a moment of creative reboot. So I hope today will be a time for all of you for a creative reboot and to get to know yourselves better. Thank you.